Welcome to another CIRF report. This is on Veterans Day, so welcome all vets, and my heart goes out to you from one vet to another. As we've served our country, we have attempted to protect our freedoms. Meanwhile, government keeps on taking more away, and we've got to fight that as well. But let us not forget the veterans who have given their ultimate price, their life, in the defense and service of freedom. Welcome, everybody. This is an interesting week. We have a lot of different energies, and let's get right to it. The overlap here is, for those of you who are new, we're triangulating for the influence. This is the first part of the video is the influence. The second part of the video is going to be the solution. This is the behavior component. So if you don't have time, these run roughly about 30 minutes. If you don't have time for the weekly report, at least go slide to the end so you can get the solution first, so you know how to behave to maximize the energies. But like always, it's a great thing to have the main influence, to know what you're looking for, because a lot of us react off the energies. And so anyway, I got a lot to say there, but let's move on. We have the overlap is kind of convoluted because they're directly overlapped. It's a high congruency score, meaning that they're very similar energies from astrology with Mars direct, Venus squares. We have a new moon. We have black moon Lilith with Uranus. Holy crap, a lot of unexpected energies. We have the U.S. presidential election. Talk about unexpected. Well, I mean, some people really expected the corruption around this, the fraud, the fraudulent way that they harvested and all that sort of thing. But I don't want to get too much in the election. It's a lot of unknowns here. A lot of unknowns, obviously, like who's going to become the president? How is this thing going to unfold? When is it going to unfold? Then we got the Dreambot. Now, the Dreambot is all along the lines of female people, female family members. And so it's like an ancestry. I was originally thinking divine feminine, because if you see the series from previous days, Dreambot runs, it's constant like family members that are female. And so from like mommy to grandmother to queen, this sort of thing. So I'm thinking more along the lines of ancestry and procreation. We'll get into that later. And why that matters is because there's unexpected there. There's in procreation, you're building something, but you have to trust. If you think of a pregnant female, which is kind of an oxymoron, only females can be pregnant. I bet you that somebody would disagree with me, but whatever. It's unexpected. You can look at ultrasounds and you can do all these things in the birth process, but until that entity is birthed, you really don't know what it is. And that's why the I-Ching says darkening of the light. This is hexagram 36 with a lot of change lines. Up at the top of this hexagram, it's all yin. And this is what yin is. This is the Dreambot is all yin, completely yin. The presidential election seems dark and unexpected. That's very yin. It's birthing something. So something is gestating. We have to trust that there is something building, and we're in the process of co-creating this thing. All right. It's still unseen. Don't be totally helpless. Make sure you watch this whole report so you get to know how to best co-create in the best manner with these crazy energies. All right. We're going to get started with the Dreambot next. And if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe. We do weekly reports. You need to know what the influence is. Now, if you don't have time, slide all the way to the end so that you at least get the solutions. We do. Now, you saw the triangulation process for the influence. Later on in the show, we're going to do triangulation for the solution and how to behave. All right. This is the Dreambot, the collective unconscious, the collection of dreams, and zooming in. We look for memes. We look for overlaps and topic areas. First word, precious, but look at this, daughter, lady, helping, eggs, girl. And if you look at previous Dreambot runs in the days leading up to this, you can add on like queen and grandmother. I talked about that earlier, and mom. It's like the family members that are female. I was originally thinking divine feminine, but this is the lineage. This is the birthing process. This is procreation, right? Especially when we look at eggs. Eggs, that's a very early on in the gestation process. Very early on. The fertilization. That's the first part of this growth. And maybe that's where we are in the collective birthing, the collective procreation. We're birthing something. It's very dark, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean it's evil. It means that it's unseen. All right. Now, with this meme, we also have linguistics. So check these out. Linguistic set number 1. Figured, truck, November, drive, hunted. And in this one, could it be that more trucks get stopped by terrorist organizations and drug out and beat? Or could this refer to the November truck strike? And I have more to say on this next video that's coming out. I'm going to do a special video on astrology for the next foreseeable future to determine when this chaotic energy is going to end. And so tune into that. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell so that you get notified. You don't want to miss that movie or that video. So that one talks about the truck strike as well. And then smelled today, daughter, lady missing. So maybe a prominent daughter goes missing. I'm not sure about smelled and today, maybe just daughter, lady missing. And that's part of the meme too. And that's significant, or it might be significant. Linguistic set number 3, passenger, smoke, whenever, church, getting. I'm wondering if there is a church that lights up. In other words, maybe blows up, or maybe conceptually something, maybe a sort of a line of religion blows up. It doesn't have to blow up, but maybe smoky, getting smoky. And so a church is getting, chaos or burning down, something like that. Who knows? These are not predictions. These are just hypotheticals. So keep that in mind. Let's get into the astrology. But first, our show today is brought to you by Kanakuk. And I don't know why. Oh, that's why. There we go. Got to zoom in. Kanakuk is how to cook your medicine, your THC, CBD, CBG, all that stuff into your food, making it easy to get your medicine. And in an easy way and in a really cool format, they have a new app out. Brand new app, Kanakuk.com. Go there. Thank you. Next, look at the astrology. We have Mars. Let me get the highlighter out. Kaboom. We have Mars is moving direct. He was in retrograde for quite some time, still in Aries, going to go direct. That's going to feel a lot more powerful. So people are going to feel a lot less sluggish. That's not necessarily a good thing. Even the bad guys are going to feel less sluggish. Great. Wonderful. So combine that with squares and conflict versus sextiles, which is growth and opportunity. You're going to see a lot of both of those, squares and sextiles. All right, let's move on. Look at this one. This is Thursday the 12th. Thursday the 12th at midday. This is in Central Time. You have the Moon and Venus together in Libra with that massive square over to what we've been talking about and referring to as the positive transformation of the way things have always been. This is happening together. Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn are there to transform the status quo. And you might want to look at, governance in that. Some people look at Saturn as more governance, same type of thing. Pluto represents transformation. Jupiter represents positivity, wisdom, and optimism. And all that's in Capricorn, so it's very goal-oriented. Well, there's a square there. So there's puts a lot of pressure on finance, harmony, peace. If you've got, this is a very emotional piece because Venus is ruler of Libra, and it is at home, and the moon very emotional too. So it goes really well with the archetype of both Venus and Libra, which is harmony and togetherness and bonding. That's strong, but that pressure and that conflict is conflicted with this transformation that's happening underneath it all. I mean, nobody's reporting on this. Well, I can't say nobody. There are some alternative news media that appear to be more objective in nature and not throwing out just propaganda. But nonetheless, it's happening still, even though there are some agencies accurately reporting on this topic. It's still in the dark. No one really knows. There's a lot of obscurity here, but underneath it all, underneath the table, something's growing, and it's a positive nature according to this alignment that has been around for quite some time. This pressure forces us to use these energies to create that transformation. So I know a lot of squares look bad. That's why the red is not necessarily bad. It's just a pressure to do it. It can feel very strong, a lot stronger, especially when you have that many squares together. But it's that pressure to change. This might be the catalyst. Togetherness, harmony in Libra, justice, balance, that's the Libra archetype, is making this as the catalyst to produce this positive transformation of the way things have always been. So wonderful. And then you have the sun, which represents our ego, has sextiles over to that same triplet, meaning that it's an opportunity for our ego, or you can look at it the other way around. Our obsessive, that's Scorpio, obsessive sun, obsessive ego, obsessive sense of yang has an opportunity to make positive change in goal-oriented Capricorn with this triplet set of planets. Then you have down here within an orb, so 7 degrees away, just want to highlight really quick, Black Moon Lilith, the true Black Moon Lilith, and Uranus technically conjunct, opposite of our obsessive Scorpio thoughts, Mercury. All right, so just note that. This is a lot of change. Mercury is normally very adaptable, but in Scorpio, you tend to get cyclic and ruminating. That's the Mercury in Scorpio. So your thoughts and your communication tend to go round and round and round. You tend to get vindictive, a little bit more vindictive, a little bit more secretive, that sort of thing. So your thoughts and communication are more Scorpio. And that's interesting because Black Moon Lilith is on the other side of this. All right. So there's an opposition to change. There's Friday the 13th. Ooh, spooky, right? Well, yes, because Uranus and Black Moon Lilith are getting closer together and opposite now the very emotional, rational mind. Mind is not going to be very good with this. And adapting to all this change, adapting is not a real good trait of water signs in general. It's hard to be adaptable. We need to be much more in the air. That's where Mercury likes to be speedy and adaptable, but he's not. He's not in Scorpio. So that's going to be sort of resistant to change, but maybe forcing those emotions and thoughts to balance to the change and unexpected nature of those two. And then we talked about the Venus square, the Pluto, Jupiter, and Saturn. And we already talked about the sun's sextiles. That continues. Then we have the new moon in Scorpio, 23 degrees. This is something that I posted on. There's another reason to subscribe. Sometimes I do some posts on YouTube, which I posted this one, and you're basically seeing we have a choice here. This new moon which is right here, you have a choice of energy, and it all has to center on, well, first of all, the Black Moon, Lilith, and Uranus only 2 degrees away right now, or less than that. But the main centerpiece here is Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn. This is the positive transformation of the things that have always been, or the status quo. So you can either be conflicted with it, or you can use your new moon energy, the new cycle here, birthing something new associated with a positive transformation of the status quo. So wonderful energy here to do just that. Now, a new moon in Scorpio can be very dark. This is the epitome of the I-Ching reading that we're gonna talk about later. So mark my words, darkening of the light has another connotation here, and it has to do with the new moon. I mean, think about it like physically going out to look at a new moon. What does it look like? It looks like black space. There is nothing to see, apparently, and that's just the nature of the new moon. And we're seeing the side of the moon that is not lit by the sun on that new moon. Okay, and so that has everything to do metaphorically with Scorpio and that archetype, because Scorpions don't like the sun. They don't like to be out in the light. They like to be inside the boots and under the rocks, and so in hidden places. And that is perfectly matches our overall influence picture, which is like something is gestating. Something is in the dark. We have to trust that it's there. Dark doesn't represent bad in this case. Dark doesn't represent evil in this case. It just means hidden. It's a hidden gestating. Something is growing and it's hidden and it's unexpected. And in this cycle, that's where we are. This is the epitome of a new moon. It's dark. And in Scorpio, it's very dark and deep. Okay, so new cycle in this, you have an opportunity, this snapshot, have an opportunity to do something for this furthering of the transformation, the positive transformation of the status quo. Okay, so wonderful energy for that. I'd like to also highlight Mars is going station here. And again, this is on the 14th of November at 11:07 Central Time. And I think that's all that I need to say there. Now, I do want to look at, this is where I really became curious about the squares, because you guys tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that ever since we had this Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn conjunction, there's always been something square to it. It never can just be. And I'm wondering if I started wondering, first of all, how long these squares are going to last. But I also started to think that it's been having all this different catalyst for the gestation process of whatever we're birthing collectively. So think about that. But anyway, these squares have always been there ever since this team got together. And so I looked at this. In going forward, the squares to Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn, here we have, remember when Mercury was the last one, and it handed off to Venus, and the Sun, even before that, the Sun was there. So the Sun handed off to Mercury. Mercury went to retrograde and then did some more squares, and then handed off. Now it's Venus. Well, in the next few weeks, you're going to see Venus handing it off to Mars. So we're going to get the squares from the other side. And then Mars, later on, we're talking like next year, 2021, you're going to start seeing Mars handing it off to Uranus. But this is the whole deal of my next video, the special video, not next week's. Hopefully before next week, we're going to answer the question, when do the squares end? And in it, we're going to be passing a couple of different eclipses. We're going to be passing a couple very important dates for the positive transformation of government, and see what else. And then we're going to see when these squares to the positive transformation end. Oh, by the way, we have Saturn going to be the first out to transition into its new sign very soon. All right. So it's a very interesting video. Make sure you look out for that one. November 15th, this is Sunday, the 15th. It's not quite a T-square, but Venus still has her squares there. And then Pluto also has Mars. So as Mars starts going direct, there are going to be more squares. So in essence, as I just talked about before, Venus is going to lose her squares and Mars is going to gain squares as he starts going direct. All right. And with this one is starting to get more conflicted because Mars is the yang. Mars is the fighter. Mars is the warrior. And now he's going direct. So he's not so lethargic anymore. He's got fresh power in his home sign of Aries. So he's got full load of ammunition and strength. And he's got a square over to the positive transformation of the way things have always been. So what does that mean? Pressure and conflict, pressure to change. So this is going to be a catalyst. And what kind of catalyst will that be? I don't know. Everyone's going to feel this the same way, but they're all going to react differently. I mean, we could easily say it's like a more terrorism or more burning down of buildings, maybe, or you might see a myriad of other things where there's just general conflict, but it is related to ultimately in service of the positive transformation of the way things have always been. So we have to trust underneath it all, something very good is birthing. It's gestating, not birthing yet. Venus's squares start aging out. You can see as the dashed line, the moon is headed over the south node. So you're going to have old emotions and probably going to make you want run and long distance as you try to escape these old past emotions. And escapism is the Neptune archetype. Escapism, right? That's what it represents, especially in Pisces. Mars gaining more strength in the square. Then we have Tuesday, the 17th, more degradation of the squares. That's good to feel for harmony and family. As you get a little bit freer, it's going to be too late. By the time Venus loses all her squares, she's into Scorpio. But nonetheless, it's feeling a lot more relieving on your relationships and your finances. Meanwhile, Mars gaining more squares. Now, check this out. So this is November 18th. This is the last day of our CIRF report. And we have the moon getting into the triplets. So now we got an emotional, positive transformation of the things have always been. And on Wednesday, we have Mars with 2 squares now, and that's including the moon. So that strong energy, that pressure is going to get more and more pressured with Mars as it progresses direct. And Black Moon Lilith still within the conjunction of Uranus. All right, time for the I-Ching reading. We cast our coins each week. And this week we had yin, changed lines, yin over fire, earth over fire. And because those were all changed, all the yin changed to yang. But we start with hexagram 36. And this has everything to do with the new moon. It's the darkening of the light. Yes, of course, you can't see the moon during this period. When the light goes down, it may be wise to become invisible. There is a lot of truth to that in the grand scheme of things. As above, so below. Maybe it's a good time and very wise to become sort of invisible. I mean, after all, you have a whole host of extremists over there who think they have the majority, and they're wanting to make lists on certain people and give them a lot of problems, even burn down their houses and whatnot. Why do they have to peddle so much hate? All right, let's continue. Darkening of the light. There is still much activity left over from the light of day and movements in the outer world at their most dangerous. This is a dangerous time, folks. That's what the feeling is. That's what the influence suggests. Even the smallest sound, the faintest glow of light, can attract unwanted attention. Now, that sounds very Scorpio, does it not? You don't want attention. That's kind of the light. So we stay under the rock. We stay in the boot, in the dark places. And that's what it feels like. When the darkness of stupidity reigns in human affairs, yes, that's what's happening right now. How did the I-Ching know that? When darkness of stupidity reigns in human affairs, it is best to keep your brilliance hidden under a bushel basket. That is the new moon in Scorpio. Let your thoughts and efforts be quiet, self-contained, and protected as much as possible from harmful influences. Try not to become too depressed or anxious. That's again, new moon in Scorpio. This period too shall pass. Just endure it now and preserve your self-confidence. Sometimes hard for Scorpios, for self-confidence. So you're going to have to convince yourself of trust. Trusting what? Trusting that something, whatever in that is in the dark that's gestating, is going to be a positive transformation of the way things have always been. Now is the time to be cautious and reserved. Control yourself. Do not needlessly stimulate forces of opposition. There's no need to fight, right? There's no need to cause more attention to yourself. But we're not into the solution yet. This is still the influence. And then, sorry, there's a lot of reading here, but it's all important. We had 3 change lines. There is impending danger in the night. A person has grown close to a source of negative energy. Once you have perceived a negative influence, it is of no use to pretend that it does not exist. So we have to acknowledge that negative forces exist, all right? That doesn't give it power. In fact, in mindfulness, it takes away the power from it if you acknowledge it. When near a source of dark energy, persevering on the wrong road brings misfortune. Move away from darkness towards light. Line 5, when confronting a dark force, small deceptions could be helpful as long as your innermost convictions are not compromised. That's what we're seeing today in the whole election process. Line 6, the climax of dark times have arrived and the darkness has begun to consume itself. Don't you love that? I find that's why I circled it, is absolutely exciting. This has to be the climax of the dark times, has arrived. It's saying it is. And the darkness has begun to consume itself. Be thinking about the hearings in Congress and their name calling and answering in a way that are contradictory to other people. We catch them in a lie, in a contradiction, and they consume themselves. It's beautiful. When negative energy is finally spent, people of intelligence and good spirit naturally reemerge and gain rightful positions of prominence. All right, I slid a little bit too much. Hold on. Let's get to the solution. Hang on. We're going to rip through this and get you the solution slide ASAP. Hold on. All right, go to intervention.com if you have any sort of coaching needs, astrology needs, projection charts, human design readings, etc. Intervention.com, mental health counseling, and life coaching. All right, the solution for today, for this week, is hexagram 13, according to the I-Ching. It's heaven over fire instead of earth over fire. It's yang over fire. So now this is Libra. Remember Libra? And this is also our solution, okay? And I'll show you the astrology. But let's read this real quick. When communal or tribal bonds unite a group of people, what great success is possible? The broader the perspective, the greater the good can be achieved. That means we have to have more parts and pieces and more perspectives so that we have the greater good. And the greater the potential good, the more powerful the support behind it. So let's not get too rigid. Let's keep our minds open, but let's bond, let's communicate, let's cooperate as long as our values are the same. All right. But no getting rigid in this time period. A spirit of cooperation steadies the boat and the good for all. With a unified group solidly behind you, even the difficult enterprises can be undertaken without great risk. All right, we put this into our calculator. This is the new moon. Remember that chart? We had the squares and the sextiles. We had the new moon in Scorpio, which translates down to Rave Mandala 43 and Sidereal Libra. There's Libra again. Interesting, huh? So Libra was sort of our archetype of Venus and our pressure cooker of the way things have always been. And we come back to Libra for our solution. So remember, for those of you who are new, the sidereal is the chart is when you go out to the night sky and look up the new moon, which you can't see, but if you could see it, it would be in Libra. That's the sidereal chart, is what you actually see from the ground. This tropical chart is more spaces up in the sky. It's kind of, they are associated with constellations, but they aren't the constellations. They're just pieces of sky. All right. But Libra is our solution. All right. And let's read 43 real quick. It's the gate of insight. I don't want to read all of this. This is the gate of individual mental knowing. It is not backed up by facts and by merely delusion. It takes fortitude, strength, even courage to stand behind it. The gates of possibility and the final shaping of an awareness. Once fully conceptualized, they await only access to the throat and manifestation. What it's saying here is the only way to really get inner knowing out is to talk and to communicate it to someone else. That's the throat. That's the expression center of human design. So using the throat, you have to express what you know. And in doing so, that's when you really know it. That's when it really becomes the insight. It's not a valid insight if you just internalize it and keep it. So in other words, it requires a social component here to validate your insight. To get it to an insight level, you have to talk to someone else. All right, time for the solution slide. We have the archetype of the pregnant female inside. We don't really know. I mean, we know what it is, but you don't really know all about it. And so it's in the dark, but you trust that something powerful, something magical is happening. Something is growing. So something is gestating. That's the influence this week. And it's the unease that people feel all over humanity right now. So now we get into the solution and we triangulate again. We talked about the I-Ching hexagram 13. It's fellowship. Tribal bonds through open communication and empathy. Broaden your perspective. We want to have more perspectives. We want to have more dialogue with differing opinions. Rave Mandala says the gate of insight. You only know about your inner knowing and the insights until you voice it. Give voice to those inner knowings. Then in Libra's easy. Libra gets along with people, very diplomatic, romantic even, charming, spontaneous, subjective. So using the best of Libra, and then we overlap all that. Here's what we have. Here's the overall triangulation. This is definitely a yin dominating week. The light hides inside the dark. Okay, so the yang is inside the yin. Yin dominates this week. But something is growing in there. The yang is growing something, but inside the dark, inside the yin, and it's secret. We don't really know what it is. So we have to trust the universal process of growth. Channel your trust into two things based on this overlap here. One, trust in your tribe, in your social milieu. And two, trust in your inner knowing and communicate that. Communicate your intuition to others. The main solution is very social. All aspects of triangulation are helped by open communication, empathy, talking to others, even about your intuition, creating harmony, peace, objectivity. This is the Libra archetype. And even romance. It is a week to connect, to bounce ideas, to brainstorm, have meaningful sex, vary your intimacy and love language. But watch out for being overly indulgent. Watch out for being indecisive, naive. Don't be too vain. And the other thing about Libra, the Libra solution, is that you can kind of get into this tit for tat sort of scenario where you remember everything. You remember all their indiscretions, and so you balance it out yourself, or you make justice for yourself. But that's limited. Don't do that. Above all, discourse and communicate with your tribe and family. Whew. All right, guys. How did I do this week? Look out for the next video. It's probably one of the most important videos you ever see, and the connections to real life that we already know about and the electoral process is stunning. We have eclipses, we have planets moving into new signs, and then above all, we're going to answer, when is the end of squares? You don't want to miss it. All right, look out for it. I can't tell you when it's going to be, but soon. All right, see you guys. Thank you.